Welcome. Tonight, INEC raises alarm over attacks on its offices as more than 65,000 permanent voter cards destroyed following the fire set by suspected arsonists on the Commission's facility in Ogun State. The Inspector General of Police moves to probe the attack on PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar's convoy in Maiduguri, Borno State by suspected political thugs. And the FCT High Court sets aside contempt proceedings and conviction for contempt against the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdul Rashid Bauer.
On business news tonight, Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria says it has recovered a total of 307 billion naira loan debts within the last 2 years, seeks blacklisting of chronic debtors.
On sports news tonight, FIFA rejects a bid by Denmark's World Cup squad to wear pro-human rights shirts in training during the FIFA World Cup in Qatar.
Federal government reaffirms its resolve to ensure the December 2022 dates for the commencement of operations by the nation's new national carrier, Nigeria Air, remains sacrosanct.
And in international news from London, Russia has ordered its military to pull out of Kherson, the only regional capital it had captured since the start of the war.
It appears the nation's security agencies may have to do more to address the worries of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, ahead of next year's general elections. This comes as the electoral umpire has raised alarm over the continued attacks on its facilities across the country, the latest being the suspected arson attack on its office in Ogun State. According to INEC, over 65,000 permanent voter cards were destroyed in the early hours of today after suspected hoodlums attacked and set the office ablaze in Abiyokuta South local government area. Meanwhile, the Commissioner of Police in the state has vowed that such will not happen again under his watch.
Burnt power generators, collapsed wall, destroyed ballot boxes points to nothing short of a crime scene perpetrated by suspected arsonists who attacked the office of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Abiyokuta South local government area of Ogun State in the early hours of Wednesday. Some local government officials and others who stopped by perhaps wondering what could have motivated the attack on the electoral umpire's facility. According to the Commission, over 65,000 uncollected permanent voter cards, 904 ballot boxes, 29 voting cubicles, 30 megaphones, 57 election bags, and 8 electric power generators were among the things destroyed by the fire. Describing the incident as unfortunate, the resident electoral commissioner explains that on learning about the development, the relevant authorities were alerted to salvage what was left after the attack.
The building was set on fire. Immediately we contacted the Commissioner of Police as well as the fire brigade, who rushed to the premises and tried to salvage whatever could be salvaged there. But as you are aware, we got there this morning and we realized that a lot of damage occurred at the premises. A substantial part of the building was destroyed.
Hours later, the Commissioner of Police is here for an on-the-spot assessment of the extent of damage as he's taken around by the wreck. The state police boss says the force has commenced investigation on the attack while assuring them that it won't happen again.
This is pure case of arson, and I want to tell you that we shall definitely get to the root of, because Ogun State is not known for this kind of incident. It's a wake-up call for us, and we ensure that such does not happen again in the state. We have commenced investigation, and as investigation progresses, we'll be filing in on our our findings.
With elections just months away, these disturbing trends that are antithetical to peace has to be checked in order not to dissuade voter participation in next year's elections.
Meanwhile, just a day after the convoy of the PDP presidential candidate, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, came under attack in Borno State, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Usman Alkali Baba, says that a team will be set up to thoroughly investigate the matter. According to the police chief, the assessment report by the police spokesperson in the state, which dismissed the attack, might have been too hasty and not conclusive. IGP Alkali Baba was speaking at the 57th ministerial briefing in the State House, where he urged politicians to play the game by the rules. Our State House correspondent Gloria Mizuke reports.
Pervasive attacks during campaigns and rallies of political parties revived the debate on the capacity and operations of the Nigeria Police Force. In a no-holds-barred session at the State House 57th ministerial briefing, the Inspector General of Police addressed the most recent attack on the PDP presidential candidate's convoy.
What happened in Borno had happened, and the assessment of the state public relations officer might not be completely conclusive, as he reacted to what had happened very quickly. And I think we have a total team that will assess what had actually happened and the extent of what had happened based on various presentation that is coming out from members of the public, from the APC, from the PDP, from the police. So you need to have more information to come out with a clear picture of what had happened, and also put measures to prevent such occurrence in future outings of the parties.
According to him, there is no imminent threat to the FCT, and the government has not dismissed any of the recent alerts as a mere alarm.
A lot of efforts has been made, like you said, to douse detention, and actually arrest has been made for those who we believe are planning to commit crime in whatever form, and we have done that arrest, and as at when due, those arrested will be charged to court by any of the services that have them.
He acknowledges that the police has indeed commercialized some aspects of their duties.
The Special Protection Unit, the DIG is here, was created to provide protection for VIPs. And we feel people are abusing it. But anybody that will be provided with that service must be assessed, must be checked and processed. That is not one of those you have mentioned before such protection is provided. It is a commercial outfit of the police, yes.
While promising to take cases of assault very serious, the Inspector General also assures that the release of the Chibok girls is still an ongoing situation that would require training of negotiators, among other strategies, to resolve. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And the Atiku Kowa Presidential Campaign Council says it will not be deterred from its goal of rescuing Nigeria despite attacks on its members, such as the one that was allegedly unleashed on its campaign trail in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. Director Strategic Communications for the Campaign Council, Mr. Dele Momodu, stated this at a news conference in Abuja. According to him, the PDP will continue to campaign and take its messages to all Nigerians in every part of the country.
That the peace efforts initiated by our candidates is beginning to yield fruits. Anyone who knows our candidate, Atiku Abubakar, will tell you that he's a man of peace. He's a man of very few words. If you abuse him, he will never trade words with anybody. Remember, he traveled all the way to London to meet with these governors. He had dinner with them. Anybody who doesn't want peace will not do that. He's been insulted publicly. He has never responded to anybody. He's a man who wants every member of PDP to to stand proudly with him. So that is what has happened. I believe that the governors themselves can see that the candidate is very serious about bringing everyone on board, and we're happy. He was dancing, he was happy despite the attacks. That is the hallmark of a great leader. We have a leader who is not afraid to do what he needs to do. We will never fight back. If you want to fight back, I mean, look at the crowd yesterday now. All you needed to do was to order them to, but never, we will never do that. Because that is not who our candidate is. It is not in his character to fight those who fight him.
Staying with political matters, the Accord Party has officially opened its presidential campaign headquarters in Abuja as it gears up for the 2023 general elections. Speaking at the ceremony, the presidential candidate of the party, Mr. Chris Imomole, urged youth to support his candidacy and vote for his party as the only way to guarantee youth inclusion in governance in Nigeria.
At the time that Nigeria is clamoring for a new, fresh breath of air in our Nigerian politicking, we have taken it upon ourselves to also take a bold step in the race, because for us as a party, we are serious in this race and we are out there to rescue Nigerians, because we all are faced with the economic challenges we are faced with. And Nigerians are crying for an alternative, and we present to Nigerians the true alternative. That is Accord. So what we are here to do today is to, as our chairman have said, is to launch our campaign office, the presidential campaign office today, which of course is a sign of seriousness and towards this race. Also, we have also concluded on our manifesto, which soon will be released to the press. Again, we have also come up with our campaign council list, of course, and this in few days from now will also be shared with the press. Accord is serious to win this election. We know and we are hopeful that we are going into this election, not just the presidency alone, all across the candidates, from the gubernatorial candidate down to Senate and every other seat.
And more political gladiators continue to traverse the country seeking support for the bid. The All Progressives Congress presidential candidate Bola Tinubu has promised to eliminate the bottlenecks hampering the development of the mining sector if elected president come 2023. He was speaking during a town hall on mining and security in Lafayette, the Nasarawa state capital. The APC flag bearer also says he is focused on finding solutions to problems confronting the nation rather than exchanging words with other contenders in the presidential race.
I promise you, we will dismantle all bottlenecks, all blockades, illegal mining, exploitations that doesn't bring profits to Nigeria. We will have an accelerated economic development program to make you alive, your children to benefit from the prosperity that is coming from it. Stability, development, justice and fairness. And it's about freedom. It doesn't give us the freedom of insults and abuse. It gives us the freedom to focus on the immediate problem confronting our people, find solutions to them, conquer the problem, and bring joy and happiness to the people. And that is what we are here to do.
In part two, after the break, House of Representatives Committee makes case for the reintroduction of the diaspora voting bill, says Nigeria must keep up with democratic practice around the world. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. Here's a reminder of our top stories. INEC raises alarm over attacks on its offices, says more than 65,000 permanent voter cards destroyed following fire set by suspected arsonists on the Commission's facility in Ogun State. Inspector General of Police moves to probe the attack on PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar's convoy in Maiduguri, Borno State by suspected political thugs. FCT High Court sets aside contempt proceedings and conviction for contempt against Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdul Rashid Bauer. And reactions trailed the withdrawal of Russian troops from the Ukraine city of Kherson to the west of the Dnipro River. Staying with politics, more political support groups are staging rallies to show support for their candidates. This time in Lagos, supporters of the Iyalode of Lagos gathered en masse at the campus mini stadium, Lagos Island, to show their allegiance to the presidential and governorship flag bearers of the All Progressives Congress, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu and Babajide Sanwo-Olu. The chief convener of the Iyalode Support Walk for Tinubu and Sanwo-Olu, Chief Mrs. Bintu Fatima Tinubu, says the march is a demonstration of their trust in Chief Tinubu. As early as 8 a.m. Thursday morning in Lagos, party supporters, friends and colleagues of the Iyalode of Lagos, Chief Mrs. Bintu Fatima Tinubu, staged a solidarity walk for the flag bearers of the All Progressives Congress at the presidential and state levels, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu and Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu in the forthcoming 2023 polls. Hundreds of supporters all show up for the rally, a demonstration of their faith in the candidates. The Iyalode of Lagos, who is also the chief convener of the Iyalode Support Walk for Tinubu Sanwo-Olu, speaks on why the people should place their confidence in the party flag bearers, especially Asiwaju Bola Tinubu.
He's the right man for the job. They all know. If they know that he's not the right man, you would not see not even two people here today who want him to be the president of this nation. He has done enough. He deserves it. And that's why we are all here, to call everybody to come out en masse to give him their votes.
Vehicular and human movements were disrupted as the Solidarity March kicked off from the Tinubu Square in Marina, moving through Broad Street, Igboshere, and finally terminating at the campus mini stadium in Lagos Island.
I welcome you all for the love you have for Jagaban, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
The aim is to pass across one message, and that is that they have chosen to cast their vote for the All Progressives Congress.
They are all here to show the support for the man, the trusted leader and the mayor of leaders in Lagos State and Nigeria as a whole, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He's their son, and they wish and they pray, and they're actually supporting and canvassing for people to vote for him to be the next president of Nigeria after President Muhammadu Buhari.
The wife of the Lagos State Governor, Dr. Abijoke Sanwo-Olu, advises all to get their permanent voter cards so they can vote for their preferred candidates.
This is where you make your living. This is where you are selling and buying. Your children are going to school inside Lagos State. We have so many schools. We have too many children. And if you don't come out and come and vote with your PVC, which is your right, we don't need to pay you money to go and vote. It is your right because of the future of your children and your great-grandchildren.
With the 2023 general elections about 3 months away, political support groups have been organizing campaigns for their preferred candidates, hoping that Nigerians will eventually cast votes in their favor. staying with election matters, for Nigeria to keep up with democratic practice around the world, the nation must consider adopting diaspora voting. This is according to the chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Diaspora Affairs, Honorable Tolulope Shadigbe. He was speaking after the budget defense session of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission at the National Assembly. Meanwhile, Chairman of the Commission, Abike Dabiri-Erewa, is urging Nigerians who do not have jobs waiting for them outside the country not to leave the country without sorting out the matter. And the weaknesses of democratic governance are a hindrance to development for any country, especially Nigeria. These are the thoughts of political scientist Professor Femi Otubanjo. He made the remarks while delivering a paper on development and democracy in a changing world at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. The seminar was part of an event marking the official opening of the ultra-modern NIIA conference chamber in Lagos. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Amarachi Ubani reports.
It would be the first gathering in the newly rehabilitated conference hall of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, made possible by the government of South Korea. Attending the event are the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Zuberu Dada, the South Korean Ambassador to Nigeria, Kim Yong-chae, representatives of the Nigerian Armed Forces, and other invited guests. Professor Femi Otubanjo in his delivery says even though democracy implies liberty, equality, participation, rule of law and accountability, these values are constantly undermined.
Every system of government has oligarchic tendencies. Moscow and Pareto is very famous for talking about the theory of the elite. Every system moves toward it. You can see that in Britain, only recently, they appointed a prime minister without the people.
He criticizes democratic practice on the continent as most African countries are ruled by oligarchs and that democracy is not doing well in Africa. He also took a swipe at some African leaders who claim to be democratically elected.
Yoweri Museveni of Uganda has been there since 1999. Bore Nasingwe of Togo has been in power since 2005. 17 years. Paul Kagame of Rwanda has been there since 2000. Denis Nguesso of Brazzaville has been there since 1997.
The South Korean ambassador and the Director General of the NIIA later highlights the importance of growing partnerships between institutions of both countries, one that the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs commends.
Nigeria-South Korea relations have undergone significant improvement since 1980 in the areas of trade and economic relations, in the areas of security and alliance formations, diplomatic and political collaborations, and socio-cultural interconnections.
Based on this personal friendship and trust, the Korean Embassy and NIIA have built solid professional working relationship, which ultimately lead to today's auspicious event.
With friends like Korea, with friends like, the diplomatic world and the community, which Korea presently represents, the NIA is certainly ready for new challenges and the new world ahead of us.
South Korea intends to build on its relations with Nigeria and has promised that the NIIA will be the pivot of those relations. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
We have more stories from our Abuja studios. Linda, it's over to you.
Hello, Millicent. Thank you very much. The federal government is again given the assurance that the December 2022 date for the commencement of operations by the nation's new national carrier, Nigeria Air, is not changed. Speaking in Abuja while presenting the scorecard of the Ministry of Aviation under President Buhari, the Minister of Aviation, Mr. Hadi Sirika, explains that the decision of the federal government to own only 5% of Nigeria Air is in order to give room for efficiency and proper management.
The third edition of the President Muhammadu Buhari Administration Scorecard Series is featuring the Ministry of Aviation, with key players in the industry present. Before the conversation moves to the Aviation Ministry, the Information Minister makes a quick announcement.
Let me say this. We are closely monitoring the evolving developments at Twitter. It has never been our intention to ban any social media platform or stifle free speech. Not at all. What happened in the case of Twitter is well known to all.
The Minister of Aviation delves into the crux of the matter at the presentation, highlighting the achievements recorded in the sector as he clears some regulatory issues, especially as regards the unauthorized use of drones.
We are a very well-regulated industry globally, and there's only one aviation. There's no aviation B. There's only one, universal. And it has to follow those standards. So there is a world regulating body of aviation, and there are many other bodies like, of course, ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization. You have the Council, you have the WMO, and all of that.
Inevitably, the status of Nigeria Air, which is expected to commence operation next month, also featured prominently.
I've said this time and again, and I don't mind saying it many, many times. So 5% is for all of us, 250 million people. 5%. Because government has no business in business, and we can't run it. And it's true, and you know it also. Second, we say 46% of the airline will be by Nigerian institutional investors who are interested to buy. When you add the two together, you have 51%. 51%. And this 51% is on purpose and deliberate, so that we have controlling shares.
Although controversies continue to trail the ownership structure of Nigeria Air, the federal government believes the arrangement with Ethiopian Air remains the best option for the country.
To legal matters, the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory has set aside the contempt proceedings and all the orders of conviction for contempt against the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdulrasheed Bawa. Justice Chizoba Orji set aside the proceedings today after hearing an application brought by the EFCC chairman. In the ruling on Tuesday, Justice Orji had held that Bawa was in contempt of the order of the court made on November 21, 2018, directing the commission to return to an applicant his Range Rover and a sum of 40 million naira. The application was brought pursuant to Section 66A and Section 36(1) of the 1999 Constitution. The court found that at the time the order was made, the EFCC chairman was not in contempt of court, as he had complied with the order that the respondent's Range Rover be released, and by several internal memoranda, the applicant had initiated the commission's internal mechanism to ensure the payment of a sum of 40 million naira to the respondent. Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria says it has recovered a total of 307 billion naira loan debts within the last 2 years, seeks blacklisting of chronic debtors by government. That's some business news. Join us again. You're welcome back to the news at 10, coming to you live from Abuja. The Federal High Court in Kano resumed sitting today over the alleged $1.3 million fraud against the senatorial candidate of the APC Kano Central, Mr. Abdulsalam Zaura. At the sit-in, the court ordered the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to produce Mr. Zaura for arraignment in his fraud-related case after the prosecution counsel again informed the court that the defendant was absent in court as he was at the last 2 sit-ins. His counsel, Ibrahim Waru, told the court that the matter was adjourned for the adoption of written addresses in respect of whether or not the defendant must be present in court before an application challenging the jurisdiction of a court can be entertained. But the prosecution counsel, Abdul Karim Aruga, told the court that the said application was not ripe for hearing because the defendant was not in court, and maintains that they were ready to go on with the case. Mr. Zaura is accused of defrauding a Kuwaiti national of $1.3 million and was billed for arraignment after the Court of Appeal quashed the earlier discharge and acquittal judgment of the court and ordered his retrial. Away from legal matters, Degrees are not enough to make it in the 2022 workplace. Young people must acquire the adequate skills necessary to be employable and add value to the bottom line of any company. This was a charge given by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to 20,000 graduates of Nigeria's first set of Jubilee Fellows in Abuja. According to the Vice President, the Jubilee Fellowship was created to resolve the unemployment problem in the country. Our State House correspondent Kayla Megwa reports.
The Nigeria Jubilee Fellows Program is a youth empowerment partnership initiative between the federal government of Nigeria and the United Nations Development Program. Seated here are Nigeria's first beneficiaries of the program, which connects talented graduates to local jobs, paying them a monthly stipend while equipping them with the relevant skills for today's work environment. The United Nations Development Program resident representative to Nigeria, Mohamed Yahya, harps on the need to build a new culture of mentorship that can chart a new course for skill development and work experience in the African continent.
Nigeria is a pioneer in this area, and innovation that, Vice President, you may like to know, it's already been copied in many other African countries. UNDP has been asked to look into this kind of design in many parts of the continent already, because the issue of getting young people to start and get in the job sector is a continental problem, not only a Nigerian problem.
For the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the program is playing its part in tackling Nigeria's 33% unemployment rate. He charges young people to ensure they combine skills acquisition with their educational qualifications and remember to always be team players.
The problem was not just finding jobs for millions of young people, but perhaps even more importantly, ensuring that young people have these types of skills that industry required, that businesses required, that even public service required. In other words, the employer today is not just searching for a string of degrees, but a person who has a basic skill, or who has the sorts of assets that are required in the workplace. You must be a team player. What every employer wants is a good team, a team that works closely. And the rule today, as you've seen from even how this program was birthed, is collaboration, working together.
In a world that is adjusting to fast-paced technological advancements amid economic recessions, the workplace has become dynamic and challenging. Book smarts will not suffice, hence the need for programs such as this one. These initiatives, however, must be sustained for visible, impactful results on Nigeria's development. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
That's all from Abuja. Back to you, Millicent.
Thanks, Linda. We continue in the transportation sector. Trading will no longer be allowed under the Eco Bridge following the inferno that has compromised the structure integrity of the bridge at the Akombo and Ijora ends of the structure. This is according to the Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, Minister of Works during a visit to ascertain the level of damage and work done so far to the structure. He was accompanied by the Lagos State Deputy Governor, who also promised that the government will do everything to avoid a repeat of the incident.
Tough times may lie ahead for motorists and commuters in the nation's commercial capital, as authorities today revealed that the Eco Bridge will be closed for repairs till May 2023. Built in 1975, Eco Bridge is one of the 3 bridges linking Lagos Island to the mainland, but was damaged by an inferno at the Akpongbon end in March 2022 and at the Ijora axis on November the 4th, 2022. The fires brought to the fore illegal structures including shops which were affected and which now face complete removal.
We must as a people come to an understanding that under bridges are not marketplaces. And we have reached a point where I think the best words to describe it is tough love. Because if we do not show tough love, one day those columns are going to come down and they are going to kill people very, very extensively. I don't want to be here picking bodies, mangled and dead bodies
on that tonnage of concrete, but we are slowly getting close. We must decide to live the right way. But the Lagos State government will help us to live the right way. But we need your support. Let's educate ourselves so that it's not that you don't want them to work. No, that is not a market. That is nowhere to sleep. You can't be sleeping under the bridge.
The contractor and other partners give a brief of the work done so far to ensure speedy construction and traffic diversion.
We start by, of course, removing all of the loose concrete, sandblasting the piers and removing all of the loose concrete. Okay, also here we are still sandblasting, removing. Then we have started here by installing the main reinforcement. Okay, then we have started here by jacketing the piers.
For example, you can now there's another route underneath Akpogbo Bridge, which can take you to Leventis, etc. And then you then come up, ramp up, and then continue to the island. So those are the main options, apart from Third Mainland Bridge, that you can take. We would have a lot of LASMA, FRSC working together just to make sure that we can guide people through those alternatives.
As work commences and traffic is being diverted from these affected areas, the authorities say it is important that all Lagosians work together to ensure speedy and good works on the project. Dominic Iwiwu, Channels Television News.
To some company news now. Cadbury Nigeria PLC, a subsidiary of Mondelez International, one of the largest snacking companies in the world, has launched the Bonvita biscuit into the Nigerian market. At the formal event in Lagos, the managing director of the company, Mrs. Oyeyemika Adeboye, says that it is a 13-year-old dream that has finally been fulfilled, making this its fourth product portfolio. The company is also confident that Bonvita biscuit will take its right of place in its market segment.
Cadbury Nigeria PLC, one of the nation's leading manufacturers of food, drinks and the popular Bonvita beverage, is breaking new grounds. So top company executives, staff and distributors are present to witness this leap, a journey of 13 years finally fulfilled.
We had this Bonvita biscuit idea in 2013, but Nigeria happens. So we went back to the drawing board and had to look at what are our alternatives. But we still were insisting that we want the best product. Giving Bonvita name, we will not give Bonvita name to anything less than Bonvita stands for in our market.
Its fourth product category is the new Bonvita biscuit. And straight now to the unveiling.
Biscuit is made with a real Bonvita. It's made from cocoa powder. It's made from wheat, obviously wheat, sugar, and also it is chocolatey. It is unique because no other brand in the market has that so much chocolatey taste. It is crunchy and it's filled with so much goodness.
Bonvita biscuit comes in 2 consumer pack units of 6 and 10, which sell for 60 naira and 100 naira. And the company is confident of taking on the market.
We believe by virtue of the taste of the biscuits and the first of its kind in this West African market, we believe it will go places. So we'll start with Nigeria, probably go to Ghana and some other West African countries as well.
Cadbury Nigeria PLC is a subsidiary of Mondelez International, one of the largest snacking companies in the world. It has grown to become a household name, providing consumers with much-loved iconic brands.
Time for some business news. Here's Anne Wilder. Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria says it has recovered a total of 307 billion naira debts within the last 2 years. In a committee report submitted to the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, AMCON explains that it recovered the sum of 146 billion naira from its outstandings in 2020, while 161 billion naira was recovered in 2021. Meanwhile, the committee has asked the federal government to blacklist all chronic debtors from accessing contracts and projects from any ministry, departments or agency, except clearance is obtained from APCON on the debt status of such debtors. The African Development Bank Group and the OPEC Fund for International Development have signed a memorandum of understanding to expand its partnership to support sustainable economic and social development within the continent. This agreement, which was signed at the 27th United Nations Climate Conference COP27 in Egypt, is set to scope for further strategic and operational cooperation through co-financing of public and private sector projects, joint diagnostic and analytical work, and sharing of knowledge and best practices. Since their partnership began in 1976, both parties have so far co-financed nearly 90 projects in the energy, transport, and water sectors, with more than $1 billion of OPEC fund contribution for over $15 billion of total project value. The governor of Anambra State, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, has presented the 2023 budget estimate of 260 billion naira to the State House of Assembly. According to the governor, the proposed spending plan for next year will allow his administration press the pedals of development and transformational leadership, which he says will leave no space for excuses despite the risky bumps or challenges.
We are here to present to you, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, a draft 2023 budget of about 260 billion compared to the revised 2022 budget of about 170 billion, with a capital budget of 164 billion, accounting for 63.2%, while the recurrent of 95.5 billion accounts for 36.8%. It has a deficit of 13 billion. Mr. Speaker, this Honorable House approved for us to borrow 100 billion to part finance the revised 2022 budget. I'm here to let you know, Mr. Speaker, that so far we have not borrowed a kobo. We have, however, applied for 90 out of the 100 billion. And when it comes, which we expect to be in a few weeks' time, we plan to roll it over as part of the 2023 finance.
And it's another win for the local equities market. It sustained positive momentum for the second day in the week amid more than 200% increase in the total volume of shares traded today. Let's hear the details from Will Ibong.
Welcome to the stock market report. Equities made a significant jump from yesterday's close. The market index up 1.07%, and you can imagine the increase to the equity cap, and that's a whopping 253 billion naira added to that, and that's thanks to Airtel Africa and Dangote Cement, which brought on the magic today. We also see from the oil and gas sector, MRS gliding on a 9.83% increase to close at 12 naira 85 kobo, and that had a massive impact on the market as well. But not so good news for Julius Berger, though, which lost 2 naira 30 kobo in today's trading session. However, sector performance were mostly positive. Dangote Cement gain jacked up the industrial goods sector, taking it to a 3.5% close. Overall, not bad performance despite the negative market breadth, as there were more losers than gainers today. And that's the stock market report. And Will Ibong is back to you.
Thanks for watching Business News Tonight. I'm Anne Nwawado. The rest of news at 10 continues now with Millicent. Thank you, Anne. To some international news now. Reactions have trailed the withdrawal of Russian troops from Kherson to the west of the Dnipro River, while head of the Ukrainian armed forces says troops were left with no other option. One advisor to Ukrainian defense minister cautions on jumping to any conclusions. Here's Simon Pussy with more on Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Russia has ordered its military to pull out of Kherson, the only regional capital it had captured since the invasion began. A military video shows Ukrainian soldiers near a highway 30 kilometers from Kherson. Russian forces withdrawing from the area after a 6-month-long occupation. leaving a trail of destruction and desolation behind. It's a significant blow for Russia and means its forces will pull out entirely from the western bank of the Dnipro River. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says his country is moving carefully in response to the announcement. US President Joe Biden said the decision to withdraw from Kherson shows Russia's war is not going to plan.
First of all, I found it interesting they waited till after the election to make that judgment, and which we knew for some time that they were going to be doing. And it's evidence of the fact that they have some real problems, the Russian military.
Hurricane Nicole has hit Florida with 70-mile-an-hour winds, but has been downgraded to a tropical storm after it slowed on making landfall. States of emergency remain and evacuation orders are in place with heavy rain and storm surges forecast. Nicole has already lashed Grand Bahama Island as a huge Category 1 hurricane, with the scale of the devastation not immediately clear. Storms of this size so late in the year are extremely rare. Since record-keeping began in 1853, Florida has had only 2 hurricanes strike in November in 1935 and 1985. Nicole is the first hurricane to make landfall in the US this late in the season in 40 years. Thousands of football fans have protested in Indonesia's East Java, demanding further investigation into police conduct at a stampede that killed 135 people after a match in October. Protesters, some carrying coffins and signs that read, "All this because of tear gas," as they marched on the main thoroughfare of the city of Malang. Indonesian authorities and the Indonesian Football Association have faced questions over why police fired 45 rounds of tear gas inside the stadium. 6 people, including police and match organisers, are facing criminal charges after the stampede. It is the worst tragedy at a soccer match in the country since 1964. Hundreds of thousands of civil servants in South Africa have embarked on a nationwide strike over wages and working conditions. Local media have described it as the first major strike by public servants in a decade. It is expected to cause disruptions in some government departments and airports. Members of the Public Servants Association had for weeks staged lunchtime pickets, but have now decided on a full-scale shutdown in major cities across South Africa. It follows a breakdown in negotiations between the union and the government. Bao Tong, the most senior Communist Party official imprisoned over the Tiananmen protests that shook Beijing in 1989, has died at the age of 90. He championed political reform in the 1980s during pro-democracy protests. But after crushing the movement, the Communist Party expelled Bao and jailed him for 7 years. Even as Chinese activists the world over mourn his passing, the news has drawn no reaction in his own country, where the internet is heavily censored. And finally, a group of Britons have been putting their weird and wonderful talents on show on the 19th annual Guinness World Records Day in the hope of making it into the book. From hula hoop spinning on stilts to continuous football tricks and some even more bizarre stunts in between, more than 1,000 applications were received from aspiring record breakers across the world for GWR Day, with the hopes of securing their place in the next edition of the book.
Yeah, so this record I just saw online. Someone sent it to me and I thought I might be able to break that. So I've only been practicing for around a month or so now for this specific record. But yeah, I've been practicing every day, I've been smashing it every time in my practice, so I knew today I just had to put it into action. So yeah, all good.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. FIFA have rejected a bid by Denmark's World Cup squad to wear pro-human rights shirts in training. The Danish Football Union had requested its team be allowed to wear jerseys bearing the message "Human Rights for All." Now, the Danish Football Union disputes that it is a political message, but will comply with the FIFA decision to avoid fines and sanctions. Along hostile to the organization of the World Cup in Qatar, while the Danish Federation had wanted to be at the forefront of the defense of human rights during the tournament.
Meanwhile, World Football Governing Body FIFA has announced that Qatar has agreed to allow special direct flights from Israel carrying Israeli and Palestinian fans for the FIFA World Cup. A deal was brokered between Qatar and Israel, who do not have diplomatic relations, so that flights are temporarily operated during the tournament. FIFA said all fans on the flights must have a match ticket and Qatar's special fan pass. Under FIFA's World Cup hosting accord, Qatar cannot refuse fans from any nation. England coach Gareth Southgate has included informed Leicester City midfielder James Maddison in his squad for the FIFA World Cup in Qatar, with forwards Callum Wilson and Marcus Rashford also selected. Manchester City duo of Kyle Walker and Calvin Phillips are included, with Man United defender Harry Maguire also in, despite not playing regularly for his club side. Southgate says he has spoken to all the players who missed out on a place in the squad to explain the reasons behind his decision. And that's Sports News. I'm Ayotunde Balogun.
And the main news again. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, today raised alarm over attacks on its offices, said more than 65,000 permanent voter cards were destroyed following fires set by suspected arsonists on the Commission's facility in Abiokita South local government area of Ogun State. Also today, the Inspector General of Police moved to probe the attack on the convoy of the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar in Maiduguri, Borno State, by persons suspected to be political thugs. That's news at 10 to 9. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.